It's now confirmed, Russian President Vladimir Putin appears to be moving to directly enter the Iran-Israel conflict, just days after holding a high-stakes phone call with US President Donald Trump. Reports suggest that Putin is furious after a suspected Israeli strike hit a Russian-operated facility in an Iranian city known to host a sensitive nuclear site. According to the Kremlin, the explosion was so intense that windows in the Russian compound were blown out, with several people inside the building thrown off their feet. In response, President Putin personally reached out to his Iranian counterpart, holding an urgent call to express solidarity and coordinate the next course of action. On March 10, Russia sharply condemned what it described as a joint US-Israeli strike that caused severe damage to a Russian diplomatic site inside Iran, accusing both nations of crossing dangerous new red lines. The incident reportedly took place in the Iranian city of Isfahan, where the Russian consulate compound sustained visible damage amid heavy shelling and ongoing cross-border fire linked to the wider regional war. Moscow's foreign ministry officially confirmed on March 8 that a Russian consulate building in Isfahan was directly hit during the attack, an unprecedented escalation that has further inflamed tensions between the involved nations. The Russian foreign ministry spokesperson said, quote, "On March 8, in the Iranian city of Isfahan, as a result of an attack on the governor's administration of the province of the same name located nearby, the Russian consulate was damaged. Windows were shattered in the office building and residential apartments, and several employees were thrown by the blast wave. Fortunately, there were no casualties or serious injuries." Unquote. Russia has denounced the recent strike on its consulate in Iran as a blatant and unacceptable breach of international law, calling it a direct violation of long-standing diplomatic conventions that protect foreign missions during conflict. The Russian government has urged all warring sides to respect and uphold the inviolability of diplomatic sites, stressing that no military objective can justify attacks on consular or embassy buildings. On March 10, President Vladimir Putin held detailed talks with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, where both leaders discussed the rapidly escalating war and its growing implications for regional security. Just a day before that call, Putin had also spoken by phone with US President Donald Trump to exchange views on the Iran conflict, signaling Moscow's attempt to balance diplomacy with both sides of the divide. Throughout the crisis, President Putin has repeatedly appealed for an immediate halt to all hostilities, calling for restraint and dialogue to prevent the war from spiraling further out of control. Yet, despite those calls for peace, multiple reports suggest that Russia has been covertly sharing intelligence inputs and battlefield reconnaissance with Iran's military, deepening speculation about Moscow's real position in the war. Reports now indicate that Russia has allegedly assisted Iran in carrying out coordinated strikes against US military forces stationed across the Middle East, a move that, if confirmed, marks a serious escalation in the regional war. The revelation was first published by the Washington Post on March 6, citing multiple US intelligence officials who claim Moscow has been actively supporting Tehran's operations behind the scenes. One senior US official described Russia's involvement as a pretty comprehensive effort, suggesting it went far beyond symbolic backing and possibly included operational intelligence sharing. According to the report, the shared information may have included the precise locations of US naval warships, aircraft, and logistical assets positioned across the Gulf and surrounding areas. However, the Washington Post added that the full scope of Russia's assistance, including how and when the intelligence was transferred, remains uncertain due to the classified nature of the data. On March 7, US President Donald Trump downplayed the reports, stating that it was largely inconsequential whether Russia had provided Iran with intelligence, appearing to shrug off the potential implications. Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin reportedly urged Russian policymakers and major energy corporations to seize the moment and capitalize on the surging geopolitical tensions to advance Moscow's strategic and economic interests.
Last year, about a third of the world's seaborne oil exports, roughly 14 million barrels per day, passed through the Strait of Hormuz. Around 80% of that went to Asia-Pacific countries. Now this route is effectively closed. Oil production that depends on the use of the strait risks coming to a complete halt within the next month. It is clear that fully redirecting supplies of Middle Eastern oil without using the Strait of Hormuz is at least for now unrealistic. Changing logistics would not only take a long time, but also require significant spending on infrastructure, expanding marine terminals, and so on. And of course it would involve high political risks. It is clear that global energy logistics will shift towards more profitable and more promising markets while the conflict in the Middle East continues. At the same time, we must understand that the current high prices for commodities are, without doubt, temporary. Russia is, I repeat, a reliable supply of energy. It has always been so. We will, of course, continue to supply oil and gas to those countries that themselves are reliable counterparties. I mean not only our partners in the Asia-Pacific region, but also states in Eastern Europe such as Slovakia and Hungary. Even now, some colleagues informed me before this broader meeting, we are increasing supplies to our reliable partners. I would like to remind you that European Union plans to introduce additional restrictions from April 25th on the purchase of Russian hydrocarbons, including liquefied natural gas, up to a complete ban on such supplies in 2027. In this regard, the government has already been tasked with assessing the possibility and feasibility of stopping our energy supplies to the European market, not waiting for the door to be demonstratively slammed in our face, but doing it now and redirecting these volumes from the European market to more attractive destinations. If European companies and European buyers suddenly decide to reorient themselves and offer us long-term, stable cooperation free of political considerations, then of course, we have never refused, we are ready to work with the Europeans. But we need some signals from them that they are ready and also willing to work with us and will ensure that stability and reliability.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.